Time to start our meeting. All right, let me share my screen and we can start. Oh, there we go. Okay. All right, we are in Chapter 9, Section 2, The Answer to Prayer. Everyone who ever tried to use prayer to ask for something has experienced what appears to be failure. This is not only true in connection with specific things that might be harmful, but also in connection with requests that are strictly in line with this course. The latter, in particular, might be incorrectly interpreted as proof that the course does not mean what it says. You must remember, however, that the course states, and repeatedly, that its purpose is to escape from fear. Let us suppose, then, that what you ask of the Holy Spirit is what you really want, but you are still afraid of it. Should this be the case, your attainment of it would no longer be what you want. This is why certain specific forms of healing are not achieved, even when the state of healing is. An individual may ask for physical healing because he is fearful of bodily harm. At the same time, if he were healed physically, the threat to his thought system might be considerably more fearful to him than its physical expression. In this case, he's not really asking for release from fear, but for the removal of a symptom that he himself selected. This request is, therefore, not for healing at all. The Bible emphasizes that all prayer is answered, and this is indeed true. The very fact that the Holy Spirit has been asked for anything will ensure a response. Yet, it is equally certain that no response given by Him will ever be one that would increase fear. It is possible that His answer will not be heard. It is impossible, however, that it will be lost. There are many answers you have already received, but have not yet heard. I assure you that they are waiting for you. If you would know your prayers are answered, never doubt a son of God. Do not question him and do not confound him, for your faith in him is your faith in yourself. If you would know God and his answer, believe in me whose faith in you cannot be shaken. Can you ask of the Holy Spirit truly and doubt your brothers? Believe his words are true because of the truth that is in him. You will unite with the truth in him, and his words will be true. As you hear him, you will hear me. Listening to truth is the only way you can hear it now and finally know it. The message your brother gives you is up to you. What does he say to you? What would you have him say? Your decision about him determines the message you receive. Remember that the Holy Spirit is in him, and his voice speaks to you through him. What can so holy a brother tell you except truth? But are you listening to it? Your brother may not know who he is, but there is a light in his mind that does know. This light can shine into yours, giving truth to his words and making you able to hear them. His words are the Holy Spirit's answer to you. Is your faith in him strong enough to let you hear? You can no more pray for yourself alone than you can find joy for yourself alone. Prayer is the restatement of inclusion, directed by the Holy Spirit under the laws of God. Salvation is of your brother. The Holy Spirit extends from your mind to his and answers you. You cannot hear the voice for God in yourself alone because you are not alone. And his answer is only for what you are. You will not know the trust I have in you unless you extend it. You will not trust the guidance of the Holy Spirit or believe that it is for you unless you hear it in others. It must be for your brother because it is for you. Would God have created a voice for you alone? Could you hear his answer except as he answers all of God's sons? Hear of your brother what you would have me hear of you, for you would not want me to be deceived. I love you for the truth in you, as God does. Your deceptions may deceive you, but they cannot deceive me. Knowing what you are, I cannot doubt you. I hear only the Holy Spirit in you, who speaks to me through you. If you would hear me, hear my brothers, in whom God's voice speaks. The answer to all prayers lies in them. You will be answered as you hear the answer in everyone. Do not listen to anything else, or you will not hear truly. Believe in your brothers because I believe in you, and you will learn that my belief in you is justified. Believe in me by believing in them, for the sake of what God gave them. They will answer you if you learn to ask only truth of them. Do not ask for blessings without blessing them, for only in this way can you learn how blessed you are. By following this way, you are seeking the truth in you. This is not going beyond yourself, but toward yourself. Hear only God's answer in his sons, and you are answered. To disbelieve is to side against or to attack. To believe is to accept and to side with. To believe is not to be credulous, but to accept and appreciate. What you do not believe, you do not appreciate, and you cannot be grateful for what you do not value. There is a price you will pay for judgment, because judgment is the setting of a price. And as you set it, you will pay it. If paying is equated with getting, you will set the price low, but demand a high return. You will have forgotten, however, that to price is to value, so that your return is in proportion to your judgment of worth. If paying is associated with giving, it cannot be perceived as loss, and the reciprocal relationship of giving and receiving will be recognized. The price, then, will be set high because of the value of the return. The price for getting is to lose sight of value, making it inevitable that you will not value what you receive. Valuing it little, you will not appreciate it, and you will not want it. Never forget, then, that you set the value on what you receive and price it by what you give. To believe that it is possible to get much for little is to believe that you can bargain with God. God's laws are always fair and perfectly consistent. By giving, you receive. But to receive is to accept, not to get. It is impossible not to have, but it is possible not to know you have. The recognition of having is the willingness for giving. And only by this willingness can you recognize what you have. What you give is therefore the value you put on what you have, being the exact measure of the value you put upon it. And this, in turn, is the measure of how much you want it. You can ask the Holy Spirit then only by giving to him, and you can give to him only where you recognize him. If you recognize him in everyone, consider how much you will be asking of him and how much you will receive. He will deny you nothing because you have denied him nothing, and so you can share everything. This is the way, the only way to have his answer, because his answer is all you can ask for and want. Say then to everyone, because I will to know myself, I see you as God's son and my brother. Ooh, that was good. I don't know if you guys had any thoughts about that, but something certainly came up for me. When we first moved down here, of course, this is a pretty red state, and we had a lot of parties and got to know a lot of people. And it was during an election year. And we had a bunch of people over at our house. I think it was a Christmas party. And I was trying to get to know everybody, and one of our neighbors was talking, and I had this conversation. I might have shared this with you in the past, but this just kind of recalled this conversation. And I was talking to him, and he was trying to gauge where I stood politically, right? And he was explaining something to me that he felt was true. And I didn't believe that what he was saying was true because it was the opposite of what I thought. And I said, well, I can understand how you might feel that way, but I said, um, I have other opinions in that matter, and that's okay. We can agree to disagree. And he said to me after that, well, I'll be sure then if my young boys ever come to your house, they're wearing a dress. And I was so like caught off guard by that that I was just like, okay, I think this conversation is over. And I just turned around and walked away. And now looking back at that, that was the perfect opportunity for me to see the Holy Spirit or God in my brother, right? Instead of judging him and taking offense, I could have just been very loving about it and said, "Oh, what an interesting response. Tell me more about that, or tell me why would you say something like that? I would love to know, just to like put him at peace or even hear him out or even give him, but I just shut it down. I'm like, nope, you're out of my life. I'm moving on, you know. But, and he's a neighbor. He lives right down the street. I see him all the time walking his dog. We wave and say hello, but we've never said anything more than that since that day. But yeah, that's perfect opportunity, right? To see the Holy Spirit, to see God in your brother, because obviously his conditioning has made him fearful that somehow his boys are going to want to be girls because of some kind of agenda. And which clearly is not true and clearly is part of whatever fear is happening in his mind. So, yeah, but I
Maybe the
judged him.
perfect, maybe the perfect time to get reconnected to him.
Yeah, maybe. I could
See,
seek him
yeah,
out. Let's talk
yeah.
about those dresses now.
Okay.
Had a few years to think about it.
My first thought was, like you said, what does he mean by that? And my response would have been, oh, will you be wearing a dress as well? And that wouldn't that obviously he would have been offended now when you say what you said. But,
Yeah.
but my first instinct was like, oh, maybe he's trying to tell me that they're gay or something like that.
Yeah. They're, they're free to come out of the closet at my house. They can wear a dress anytime.
Yeah, I mean, and that was my honest way of thinking.
Yeah. Yeah.
What was the first part of the story? Like I missed the dress part. I only heard the
Oh,
one part.
we were getting to know one another because I had just
Uh-huh.
moved down there. Many of us had just moved here from other places.
Yeah.
And a common thing to say is, oh, yeah, we had to come to Florida to get away from our crazy Democrat friends who are, far left or whatever. And in the conversation was kind of going in that direction. And I was like, well, I think I'm on the other side of that. I said, but
Mhm.
that's okay, everybody can have their opinions and then that's when he said, "Oh, well, then I'll make sure if my boys ever come to your house, they're wearing a dress."
Oh, so he misunderstood you and you didn't accept what he was saying.
I don't
See?
think he misunderstood me. I think
No?
he created a judgment in his mind about
Where you were
what
coming
he
from?
feared. He feared that all Democrats are trying to make girls out of little boys. That was the information he was
Yeah.
getting, and that was his fear. His fear was I have to move to Florida because if I stay where I am, these crazy Democrats are going to try to make my boys into girls. And that was, that's the algorithms that these people are listening to.
Yeah, yeah. I see.
So,
I see.
and he
Thank you.
was really fearful of that,
Yeah.
obviously. to say that in my house as a guest in my house at a party. Obviously, he was fearful that that was the agenda.
And sometimes it's hard for individuals to accept others no matter what, right? There's always a clash mentally within you,
Sometimes,
right?
yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
sure. And I feel like a lot of it is based on our early conditioning, our
Mhm. Right,
social conditioning, our childhood trauma, all the things.
right, right. Interesting. Thanks for sharing.
I,
Yeah, of
but
course.
I remember a time when it wasn't that way, though, that people accepted other people's opinions as their opinions and not mine, and there wasn't so much of a fight back in the 70s and even the
Mhm.
80s that there was more acceptance of different types of people.
I think maybe that might have been because there wasn't social media. So
Hmm.
you didn't have people didn't express their opinions as much as they're expressing them now. I think there's always been the divide as far from what I can understand based on what I've read in history. But, it's again, it comes from fear, right? Fear of the unknown, fear of the conditioning that you're hearing, right? Over and
Hmm.
over and over again. And maybe we were just in little pods of like-minded people that, or maybe people just didn't share what was on their heart because it was like, wasn't that a rule back then? Don't talk about sex or politics. That
Or
was,
religion.
or religion. Yeah.
Well, I
Well,
think
my parents were very conservative, and I remember, them really looking down on the hippies and basically shunning my brother because he was protesting the Vietnam War.
Mm,
Oh,
So there was, back then, there was still the conservatives and the liberals, and the hippies were the ultimate liberals. And so society, polite society was afraid of what
hmm
the hippies were doing, just like they were in the 50s with rock, the kids listening to rock and roll and Elvis. And so, yeah, it's.
there was there was a movement that seemed to be moving towards a more liberal existence, and there was always a pushback, but it was silent. That was always in the back of people's mind, that whole way of being, because I came into where I live, with the area where I live here in Binghamton. I immediately noticed that there was definitely out racism, because I heard it from some other people at my job. I
Yeah.
hate black people, straight out. I can't stand them. All right, this is 1970,
hmm
while the hippie movement was going on. So there was always that and they thought that I was going to side with that. And I was in shock when I heard that, because coming from New York, very liberal, the whole thing evolving where there was more freedom and the push against the war. And then as Obama was elected, and there was nothing but hate coming out of everybody. I don't know if you remember how incredibly uh, busy the Secret Service was, because he probably got the most threats, you name it. It just was never publicized until after. But then after he came into power after and was gone, then now you had a pushback where permission was given to all that ideas that were still there, bubbling on the surface, to come out.
hmm
And this is where we are presently.
Yeah. Well, it was the same tactics that Hitler used.
Mhm.
well, Hitler got all of his ideas from America. That's, I mean, he sent people to the South to find out how they did their laws and everything with segregation and everything and how they treated the blacks. That's how he patterned his whole administration off of America.
Mm,
Yeah, I'd read that.
yeah.
So,
But anyways, back to being able to see
yes, the
Holy
Christ in
Spirit in
everyone.
your brothers. Yeah, these are the opportunities, right? Because there is so much division and there are so many opposing thoughts and fear, right? And I thought it was interesting in the beginning of this too, where it said, when you pray, it's not that you're not answered, but if you're in a place of fear, the Holy Spirit, God, isn't going to answer that prayer because you're not ready for it, you know? And that goes back to I'm automatically thought about, am I ready right now to devote my entire life to God? How does that feel? There's some fear there, right? Because you're thinking, what does that look like? What does that mean? What will I lose? You know, what of this materialistic world and all of the things I've worked so hard to get to this point, what will be taken from me, right? But that's the ego. And that's not the truth, but it's what the ego is constantly telling you every time you say, I give my mind to God. Tell me what to do, what to say, where to go, and to whom. Like if we could just do what that monk did, right? And say, okay, I'm going to live a life of service now. I'm dedicating my life to being of service. What does that look like? And what are we afraid of? Like, what is the initial fear? Money. Oh, where will the money come from? How will I pay my rent? How will I pay my mortgage? How will I pay for my gas in my car, right? We're so afraid that that's going to be stripped from us instead of just allowing the grandeur of God to come into us. What if my business explodes because I've given my life to God? What if people from all over the place want whatever I have and I just want to give it away, but people are willing to pay me money, more money than I could possibly ever need or want just because I'm so happy to share everything I have, right? What if that happens instead? And I think that's where we need to get our mind to is not being afraid of having that grandeur of God within us, not being afraid of stepping into that and just being love in the face of people that say things that could otherwise appear triggering, right? What if we look at our brother just with so much love in our heart and I say, I love you. And that's it. Not it's okay that you think different, just I love you. No explanation.
And that second paragraph definitely kind of addresses that. That
Right.
even if we even have fear that it might work.
Right.
I think that's what
Yes.
I understood from it, at
I
least.
wonder what that guy with the dress situation would do if you just said, I love you.
Right. And gave him a big hug.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like fucking hippie.
Well, well, so I go back to this. I was teaching a yoga class or facilitating rather a yoga class. And I guess I must have said some things that didn't sit well with someone there that was very Christian. And after the class was over, she approached me. The first thing she started was saying, I'm very uncomfortable with a lot of the things that were said in this class, blah, blah, blah. And she went on this long rant.
Mm.
Okay. Just push back, push back, push back. And I was at a loss. I was like, oh my God, like, how do I even react to this? Because I just didn't know. At that time, I was really kind of, and even though I had been learning about the course and all of that, and I was still caught in a situation where I didn't know what to say.
Mhm.
So I just let it go on and on and on and on. And then finally she said, as she was getting more and more agitated, I am a I am a God-fearing Christian. And then I just said, I'm a God-loving Christian. And that silenced her.
Yeah.
And I realized, wow, where did that come from? You know, because I didn't,
Yeah.
it just came out of me just because I was asking for help. And that's all I said. And I'll tell you that after that, she was so friendly to me every
Beautiful.
time. And we never exchanged any more kind of pushback or anything like that. But she was always very friendly. She
Well,
started
she was
me.
afraid.
Well, she said it. I'm a God-fearing Christian.
Yeah, she was afraid that what you were saying was going to invite the devil or Satan into her life, right? Because that's what she was taught.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
I had a woman say something like that to me about my sound bath because I facilitate monthly sound baths. And we were talking about it at our local community center. in the gym, and somebody said, "Oh yeah, I want to come to your sound bath." And another woman, she goes, "You should come with me." She goes, "Oh no, I can't do that. That's the devil's work. That's devil worshiping."
Wow. Wow. Well, little does she know, right?
She
Yeah.
didn't know, and she was
Right.
afraid, right? She was afraid.
Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I worked with attorneys forever, and the attorney that I worked with for 27 years, he knew that I was a yoga meditation teacher in California, and he did not want to even try it. He said, "Oh no, no, I don't do yoga. No, that's a different belief system, and it's religious." And no way, no how way to convince him that it wasn't a religion. It was an exercise, meditative state of being, and yeah, just you just can't get through some people because
right.
that's how they're made up of.
Yeah,
That's it. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. But the course says send them love,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that's all we can do is to see the Christ in them. And when that happens, then we show our readiness to receive the gifts and the love and the prayers answered, but only when we're ready to see the Holy Spirit and the Christ in our brothers.
Yeah. To top it off, he was a pastor in his church.
There
Presbyterian.
you go.
Okay. All right.
So the part about healing that this particular uh, reading is talking about here, if I'm understanding what it says, is that so with us it's the same effect in that we will heal once we're able to get over our own fear.
Hmm.
But does
Yep.
that mean healing physically or healing spiritually?
Both.
Yeah, probably both.
I would think both.
Yeah, because we can heal ourselves mentally and physically.
But are we ready?
Hmm.
I like to think of healing as when I know I am not a body, never was. I'm free, always was. I'm still as God created me, and nothing that's ever happened or will happen has ever changed that one iota. Like when I know I'm healed, then I can see it in others. Once I remember there was no separation, there are no bodies here. That's not who I am, and that's not who anybody is. And then I can maybe even say it out loud to somebody who's experiencing illness. I see you healed and whole.
Mm.
And I have said that a couple of times, um, and it was well received. But I might maybe just have to think it also. It wouldn't always be appropriate to say out loud. But, in that moment, know that is true, the truth of all of us. We're already healed and whole. Nothing ever happened that made us unhealed. That was all just a dream. That tiny mad idea when God's son forgot to laugh. Like, like, that's not God. That won't last, that idea. It's certain that we will remember who we are. We don't need healing.
But most people, when they pray, they're praying, they're in a state of fear because they're praying for their own health or the health of a loved one, you know, someone who may be very ill. And that's what's always confused me because I understand logically that kind of prayer is not um, the correct way, the right way to pray. But that's the way that most people pray. I mean, I remember when after my son had a stroke, the only prayer that I could say was please let him live. And I just kept repeating it over and over and over again. And I was in a state of absolute terror. And he did live. Um, so I don't know. It's just, I guess, the way that uh, most, all Christians are taught to pray. Growing up, you need something, you ask God for it. But this reading is saying, again, that's not how you pray. You don't pray for yourself.
In
Right.
paragraph 2, line 8, when you ask the universal giver for what you do not want, you're asking for what cannot be given because it was never created.
That doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, where are you?
Line 8. This right here.
I think that goes through several layers of the fear that created the separation, right? So I think it goes into, for example, when I first did
On
that,
paragraph.
that chakra meditation
Just
that allowed
right
me to
here.
have that out of body experience,
Little line 8. Right.
um, I was able to have this like this experience that I had no idea what was going to happen. Like it wasn't intentional. I didn't pray for it. I didn't ask for it. I just did it. I had faith. And I didn't even have faith or an expectation. I just followed these pretty basic instructions of how to activate each chakra, get it spinning up and down. I know I've shared this with you guys, and I apologize if this sounds like, oh my gosh, she's going to share this again. But it was such a profound experience jumping into that place of not my body. I was not in my body at all. And the moment I went back in, literally felt like someone dipped my body in white light and I was free of any kind of mucus, any kind of like nothing. I felt so purified, but I wasn't looking for that. It wasn't my intention. It wasn't even my intention to leave my body. I just was doing this chakra meditation just for the heck of it. Like, oh, this looks cool. I'll try this. Interesting. Didn't say what was going to happen, didn't say what to expect, but that was the result of it, right? So I think it's almost like in order to get to that place, you have to let go of all of your fear or expectation of any outcome and just have faith and trust, right? It's like what the course says, this holy instant I give to you, being you in charge. Just you have to surrender to whatever is going to happen and know that you are part of that one mind of God and trust that you are part of that one mind of God, right? And then whatever happens next happens next. It's a weird thing though, right? Because you're like, but I'm sick and I want to be better. But the course says, but no, don't say you're sick because you're whole and healed and you're part of the one mind of God. You're you're not allowing the grandeur of God to come in you because you're telling yourself you're sick, even when you try to not tell yourself you're sick because your body is hurting or it's happening or this is happening or that's happening. It's almost like you have to trick yourself into that state of surrender in order to receive. The more you hold on to wanting, the more you keep it away, the more you push it away. I always say that, when people tell me, oh, when I met my husband, for example, and he told me his wife died and he was never going to see her again and he was lost the love of his life and it was a horrible thing. And I felt compelled to call him up and say, no, she's there with you. Like the more you are missing her, the more you're pushing her away. You're not letting her come to you. You have to allow her to come to you, and she'll be there. And that's just because I experienced that with my father, with my mother, with my brother, with so many people who passed. And I still get those messages. But it's like you have to do the opposite of what you think you're supposed to do to have what you want. Does that make sense?
It's like the whole thing with money. You have to
Hmm.
give things away to be able to get it. You have to not be so we were talking earlier, it says it in paragraph 10 about how the value of return.
Hmm.
That the more you give, the more it's valued when you get it when it comes back to you.
Right.
And if you just have it and you can get it easily, then it's not valued. And it's Yeah.
prayer part that has always been confusing. Like if you have a loved one who's in the ICU, what are you just supposed to, which I went through last year? Do you just give it up to God? And what's your prayer
You
then?
love them.
For their highest good, for whatever they have agreed to experience next. Because all experience can be for good. So you never know if someone winds up with something tragic, it may be exactly what they needed. And we don't know that going in. We only know it after we've gone through the experiences. So their path may be very different than someone else's. And it may be, they may not have to experience what we think is a terrible outcome, but just the being at that place in that time might be just what they need. So to try to express a will that's something different, then, it's kind of a futile prayer is what I'm saying.
Right.
But we can pray it if it makes us feel good. But the outcome really is up to the cosmos. And whether our prayer was acknowledged or not isn't really the point. So if we just kind of align with the communion of things, knowing it will also help our trust in God, which then takes away our fears and puts us more in alignment.
So you can still pray for others' healing.
Hmm.
Well, they're already healed, but physically, yeah, they're having a physical experience, whatever that is. Their whole self, their expanded self, is already healed. It's just using the body as another communication tool. And so it's communicating there's an experience here that they can either have or not have, depending on what's right for them or where they are in their frequency.
Because there have been studies that have shown that prayers, collective praying, can have a positive effect on
Yeah.
someone's outcome.
Yeah, the
Andrea.
power of 8.
So let's read the next section because I have a feeling that all these conversations, which have been great, by the way, which is exactly this is so helpful to have all of these real life examples and experiences come up in our conversations. But let's read the next section because it's short and I think it's going to shed a light on some of our conversations here. So let's dive into that and then we'll continue our conversation. Okay, the correction of error. The alertness of the ego to the errors of other egos is not the kind of vigilance the Holy Spirit would have you maintain. Egos are critical in terms of the kind of sense they stand for. They understand this kind of sense because it is sensible to them. To the Holy Spirit, it makes no sense at all. To the ego, it is kind and right and good to point out errors and correct them. This makes perfect sense to the ego, which is unaware of what errors are and what correction is. Errors are of the ego, and correction of errors lies in the relinquishment of the ego. When you correct a brother, you're telling him that he is wrong. He may be making no sense at the time, and it is certain that, if he is speaking from the ego, he will not be making sense. But your task is still to tell him he is right. You do not tell him this verbally if he is speaking foolishly. He needs correction at another level because his error is at another level. He is still right because he is a son of God. His ego is always wrong, no matter what it says or does. If you point out the errors of your brother's ego, you must be seeing through yours. because the Holy Spirit does not perceive his errors. This must be true, since there is no communication between the ego and the Holy Spirit. The ego makes no sense, and the Holy Spirit does not attempt to understand anything that arises from it. Since he does not understand it, he does not judge it, knowing that nothing the ego makes means anything. When you react at all to errors, you're not listening to the Holy Spirit. He has merely disregarded them. And if you attend to them, you're not hearing him. If you do not hear him, you're listening to your ego and making as little sense as the brother whose errors you perceive. This cannot be correction. Yet it is more than merely a lack of correction for him. It is the giving up of correction in yourself. When a brother behaves insanely, you can heal him only by perceiving the sanity in him. If you perceive his errors and accept them, you are accepting yours. If you want to give yours over to the Holy Spirit, you must do this with his. Unless this becomes the one way in which you handle all errors, you cannot understand how all errors are undone. How is this different from telling you that what you teach, you learn? Your brother is as right as you are, and if you think he is wrong, you are condemning yourself. You cannot correct yourself. It is impossible. It is possible then. Is it possible then for you to correct another? Yet you can see him truly because it is possible for you to see yourself truly. It is not up to you to change your brother, but merely to accept him as he is. His errors do not come from the truth that is in him, and only this truth is yours. His errors cannot change this, and can have no effect at all on the truth in you. To perceive errors in anyone and to react to them as if they were real is to make them real to you. You will not escape paying the price for this, not because you are being punished for it, but because you are following the wrong guide and will therefore lose your way. Your brother's errors are not of him any more than yours are of you. Accepting his errors as real. Accept his errors as real, and you have attacked yourself. If you would find your way and keep it, see only truth beside you, for you walk together. The Holy Spirit in you forgives all things in you and in your brother. His errors are forgiven with yours. At-one-ment is no more separate than love. At-one-ment cannot be separate because it comes from love. Any attempt you make to correct a brother means that you believe correction by you is possible. And this can only be the arrogance of the ego. Correction is of God, who does not know of arrogance. The Holy Spirit forgives everything because God created everything. Do not undertake his function, or you will forget yours. Accept only the function of healing in time, because that is what time is for. God gave you the function to create in eternity. You do not need to learn that, but you do need to learn to want it. For that, all learning was made. This is the Holy Spirit's use of an ability that you do not need, but that you made. Give it to him. You do not understand how to use it. He will teach you how to see yourself without condemnation by learning how to look on everything without it. Condemnation will then not be real to you, and all your errors will be forgiven.
So, a little story that has meant the world to me over the past 2 weeks, as I've struggled with my spirituality is of a wonderful quality, but I've always had a tug with physical chronic pain and physical ailments and was wanting to correct them. And I'm now facing a surgery that could go well and be fine, or it could leave me paralyzed, or I thought that I could sign a DNR and say, if you have to do the thing that would paralyze me, then just don't do it. And because I don't have a fear of death, that did go away when I reached one of my spiritual experiences. But I realized that I did have a fear of certain things in life. And so lo and behold, the situation that presented itself was not one that I could opt out. And so I had a conversation, if you will, and recognized that that was a fear, and that's what was holding me back from my communion, if you will. And so once I recognized that and said yes, said yes to the cosmos, basically, whatever experience is in store for me, I am willing to accept it. It's kind of like the Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane. It's like, I don't necessarily want this cup, but yes, if it is for me to drink from, pass it over. And I will experience life and still be of service in whatever capacity, because I do know that I am healed and whole already. And that was magnificent for me to not just have it as a thought, but as a true deep knowing now. And from that moment of that realization, I have been absolutely at peace with what is coming up before me. And in fact, had a procedure about a week and a half ago where I was fully alert and awake, had no medication on board, and got to watch the cardiac catheterization. And that was amazing in and of itself, and looking forward to whatever happens next month. So that's just part of the experiences, at least that I keep happening on my journey as my faith continues to expand and I really join the oneness. I feel like this is one thing that I hadn't expanded my faith in. And now I'm so happy that I'm there, because I look at everything now with peace as far as I know.
That's beautiful, Mary. Thank you so much for sharing that. Anybody else want to share what's happening or coming up for them? All right, shall we read one more section? All right, let's do it. The Holy Spirit's plan of forgiveness at one-ment is for all, because it is the way to undo the belief that anything is for you alone. To forgive is to overlook. Look then beyond error and do not let your perception rest upon it, for you will believe what your perception holds. Accept as true only what your brother is, if you would know yourself. Perceive what he is not, and you cannot know what you are, because you see him falsely. Remember always that your identity is shared, and that its sharing is its reality. You have a part to play in the at-one-ment, but the plan of the at-one-ment is beyond you. You do not understand how to overlook errors, or you would not make them. It would merely be further error to believe either that you do not make them or that you can correct them without a guide to correction. And if you do not follow this guide, your errors will not be corrected. The plan is not yours because of your limited ideas about what you are. This sense of limitation is where all errors arise. The way to undo them, therefore, is not of you, but for you. The at-one-ment is a lesson in sharing, which is given you because you have forgotten how to do it. The Holy Spirit merely reminds you of the natural use of your abilities by reinterpreting the ability to attack into the ability to share. He translates what you have made into what God created. If you would accomplish this through Him, you cannot look on your abilities through the eyes of the ego, or you will judge them as it does. All their harmfulness lies in the ego's judgment. All their helpfulness lies in the judgment of the Holy Spirit. The ego, too, has a plan of forgiveness because you are asking for one, though not of the right teacher. The ego's plan, of course, makes no sense and will not work. By following its plan, you will merely place yourself in an impossible situation to which the ego will always lead you. The ego's plan is to have you see error clearly first and then overlook it. Yet how can you overlook what you have made real? By seeing it clearly, you have made it real and cannot overlook it. This is where the ego is forced to appeal to mysteries, insisting that you must accept the meaningless to save yourself. Many have tried to do this in my name, forgetting that my words make perfect sense because they come from God. They are as sensible now as they ever were, because they speak of ideas that are eternal. Forgiveness that is learned of me does not use fear to undo fear, nor does it make real the unreal and then destroy it. Forgiveness through the Holy Spirit lies simply in looking beyond error from the beginning and thus keeping it unreal for you. Do not let any belief in its realness enter your mind, or you will also believe that you must undo what you have made in order to be forgiven. What has no effect does not exist. And to the Holy Spirit, the effects of error are non existent. By steadily and consistently canceling out all its effects, everywhere and in all respects, He teaches that the ego does not exist and proves it. Following the Holy Spirit's teaching and forgiveness, then, because forgiveness is His function, and He knows how to fulfill it perfectly. That is what I meant when I said that miracles are natural, and when they do not occur, something has gone wrong. Miracles are merely the sign of your willingness to follow the Holy Spirit's plan of salvation, recognizing that you do not understand what it is. His work is not your function, and unless you accept this, you cannot learn what your function is. The confusion of functions is so typical of the ego that you should be quite familiar with it by now. The ego believes that all functions belong to it, even though it has no idea what they are. This is more than mere confusion. It is a particularly dangerous combination of grandiosity and confusion that makes the ego likely to attack anyone and anything for no reason at all. This is exactly what the ego does. It is unpredictable in its responses because it has no idea of what it perceives. If you have no idea what is happening, how appropriately can you expect to react? You might ask yourself, regardless of how you may account for the reaction, whether its unpredictability places the ego in a sound position as your guide. Let me repeat that the ego's qualifications as a guide are singularly unfortunate, and that it is a remarkably poor choice as a teacher of salvation. Anyone who elects a totally insane guide must be totally insane himself. Nor is it true that you do not realize the guide is insane. You realize it because I realize it, and you have judged it by the same standard I have. The ego literally lives on borrowed time, and its days are numbered. Do not fear the last judgment, but welcome it and do not wait, for the ego's time is borrowed from your eternity. This is the second coming that was made for you, as the first was created. The second coming is merely the return of sense. Can this possibly be fearful? What can be fearful but fantasy? And who turns to fantasy unless he despairs of finding satisfaction in reality? Yet it is certain that you will never find satisfaction in fantasy, so that your only hope is to change your mind about reality. Only if the decision that reality is fearful is wrong can God be right. And I assure you that God is right. Be glad then that you have been wrong. But this was only because you did not know who you were. Had you known, you could no more have been wrong than God can. The impossible can happen only in fantasy. When you search for reality in fantasies, you will not find it. The symbols of fantasy are of the ego, and of these you will find many. But do not look for meaning in them, for they have no more meaning than the fantasies into which they are woven. Fairy tales can be pleasant or fearful, but no one calls them true. Children may believe them, and so, for a while, the tales are true for them. Yet, when reality dawns, the fantasies are gone. Reality has not gone in the meanwhile. The second coming is the awareness of reality, not its return. Behold, my child, reality is here. It belongs to you and me and God, and is perfectly satisfying to all of us. Only this awareness heals, because it is the awareness of truth.
That was a beautiful excerpt. I like that one.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
Mhm.
Yeah. Over and over and over again. Let go and let God. Right? Give it to the Holy Spirit.
I think I was muted earlier, but I wanted, after Mary shared, I just want to say thank you for sharing that. It was so helpful.
You're welcome.
It is helpful. Anybody have any comments about what was just read, or anything at all that's coming up for you, or anything on your heart you want to share?
In the first part that we read, I didn't share it, but I've been battling with deciding whether I was going to go back to Omega, back to a community, because I've been alone for so long, ever since I worked at Omega, and uh, I've been pretty much, for the most part, alone for the last 8 years, and to dive back into living in a community and working within that same community is scary. But as I've gone through this time alone, I realize how much the growth that I've been experiencing within myself because of my solitude is short-sighted. Let's put it that way, and the that everything in the course is telling me that I need other people, and everything within my ego is telling me I don't need other people. So it's been hard to realize that, but at the same time, I'm grateful that that has come up.
I was thinking about you too when we were reading today.
It's just like I've spent enough time alone in my life. I want to start working with people to grow.
We know what happens when you say that. Careful what you wish for.
Uh, I I'm not wishing, I'm real. It's a realization more than wishing, because I wish to only be alone for the rest of my life. But it's a realization that that's not doing me any good. That
Yeah.
Good
remember
for
early
you,
on.
Carl.
Yeah, good for you.
Are you an artist, Carl?
More, I left my website on the chat if you want to check out my website.
Okay.
Yeah, my whole, I mean, the pandemic was such a blessing to me, but at the same time, it was a curse because it's the first time in my life that I've ever spent any more than a week of time off in my life. And with having all that time by myself, drawing and finding out who I was the reason that was the catalyst of me spending all this time alone. And and realizing that the service of others that I've been doing my whole life being a chef was part of my eightfold path. But doing but it's time for me to start reaching out to embracing my brother instead of running away from them. I don't want to be fearful anymore.
Good for you, Carl. That's great. Thank you for sharing that.
So, Carl, are you really alone though?
Oh, never. You know, I have people living within my heart all the time. And my prayers, and it's funny when we were talking about prayer too, it's like my prayers are different than Christian prayers. Growing up as a Buddhist and experiencing all of that, I'm praying for other people, not for myself in general. I'm passing blessings on rather than asking for blessings. And I don't think that if someone's ill, that asking them to feel better, I don't think that's being selfish or I think that that's part of uh, blessing other people is what we're here to do,
Hmm.
live with other people. Uh, but the whole, I'm a God-fearing Christian. Uh, Fear and God are two totally different things. If you fear God, then you're not thinking of God as a mis it's it's not God. It's just I've had people say that I'm a God-fearing Christian, then you're not a Christian if you fear God, as far as I'm concerned. Or you're not. A Christian is a euphemism of faith. You fear faith, and you're not faithful. That's where
Well said.
Fear is what keeps us from seeing the Christ in.
others,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and it keeps you on your own opinion, like wearing a dress.
I guess I guess that's why Bug Bunny does it. Bugs Bunny. I'm sorry, I keep calling him Bugs Bunny. Bad Bunny.
Bad Bunny. Well, he's an ally of all people, and
Yeah.
just as
Right.
we all should be, and as it's all good people are allies of everyone. Everyone has their own way, and but it's all going to the same place. Anyway,
All right. Well, I appreciate that. I love our conversations today. Thank you, everyone. And as always, I do have a Facebook group if anybody wants to jump in there and share anything that's coming up for them. I share the lessons every day. And everybody knows how to get in touch with me too. And Mary has always offered her phone number. I don't know if you're still doing that, Mary, but anybody who's looking for more insights to A Course in Miracles, Mary always offers to have conversations with people. So
Yes, I am. Absolutely.
yeah. So great to be here with everyone. Thank you all for coming. It's
Thank
always
you. Thank you.
joy to share this time with you. So thank you. I appreciate all of you. Okay. See you
Thanks,
next week.
Mary. Bye.
All right. Bye.
Thanks, everybody. Bye bye.